basically in grade 12, you will learn of a mid-latitude cyclone. But before we get there, we need to do a revision on the grade 11 work that you guys have done so far. All right. So I want you guys to answer these questions interactively together if you remember something on this, okay? So you guys did global air circulation. Do you still remember that topic in grade 11, global air circulation?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So if you guys remember that section, let us label the geostrophic winds that we have here. Okay, which winds are the westerlies here? Okay, just give me their color because I can see that their colors here, but it looks like some winds have the same color. But okay, where do we find the westerlies? Where do we find the westerlies? Tahatso?
Red color, sir.
Guys,
Sir,
raise your hands. Yes, Tahatso?
we find them between the 30 degrees to 60 degrees lines of latitude, meaning the blue ones.
Yes, so you can see that here, this is the 30-degree line of latitude, this line, and then this is the 60-degree line of latitude. I'm sure this is the Earth. It has got these imaginary lines. So these winds that we find in between the 30 degrees line of latitude and the 60 degrees line of latitude, which are these winds here that you can see here, they are known as the westerlies, as the Tahatso says. So these are known as the what? The westerlies. All right. So you need to remember this from your grade 11, Jal. I'm just reminding you. So these winds are known as westerlies. Okay. Now, it means also in the northern hemisphere, these winds are also westerlies as well. But we do not really focus on the northern hemisphere because you guys are in the southern hemisphere. We're in South Africa. You guys can see that South Africa is here, right under this 30 degrees line of latitude. So we are going to focus on the southern part, the southern hemisphere. Okay, so I want you guys to tell me, where do we find the polar easterlies? Where do we find the polar easterlies? Yes, Tahatso?
Between the 60 degrees and 90 degrees lines of latitude.
Yes, between the 60 degrees and the 90 degrees. I'm sure the 90 degrees is here. So the winds that you are seeing here, these winds are known as the polar easterlies. The polar easterlies. These are known as polar easterlies. So the polar easterlies, they come from the polar region, which is the 90 degrees line of latitude. So they come from here at 90 degrees and they flow towards the 60 degrees line of latitude. Can we all guys see them? These winds here. Are we all able to see them?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, these are known as polar easterlies.
Yes,
and what
sir.
about the tropical easterlies? Do you guys know where we find the tropical easterlies?
Yes, sir.
Also,
They are found between 0 and 30 degrees
yes, so they are
lines of
found
latitude.
they are found between this 0 degrees line of latitude, which is the equator, and the 30 degrees line of latitude, which is this 30 degrees line of latitude. So we are talking about these winds here, these winds that are written in maroon or red, these ones. These are the tropical easterlies. The tropical easterlies, they are otherwise known as the trade winds. So the other name is known as the trade winds. If you are interested, you will go and research why they are referred to as the trade winds, right? So you guys should know these winds, but most particularly, you should know the westerlies as well as the polar easterlies for grade 12. Okay, I was doing a review so that I can test if you guys still remember. But for grade 12, you must remember that we have got the westerlies, which move, these ones, which are flowing from the 30 degrees line of latitude to the 60 degrees line of latitude. These blue ones here, these are our westerlies. They are known as westerlies. So these ones are our westerlies. Do we all see them, guys, from 30 degrees to 60 degrees line of latitude?
Yes,
Do we
sir.
all see them? Cool.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Now,
Yes,
let's
sir.
see if you guys remember the polar front. Do you guys remember what the polar front is? What is the polar front from grade 11? What is the polar front? Yes, Sam?
So, we explain in simple terms. Polar front, it happens in the lines of latitude in 60 degrees, where the polar air from the pole meets with the air from the equator, which is separated by squirrels. What kind? Yeah, but there's a line that separates that region in the 60 degrees.
So Quebec. So you've answered the first question, which is where is the polar front located? So the polar front, it is a line that is located here. It is a front, right? It is a line that is located here at the 60 degrees line of latitude. So at the 60 degrees line of latitude, we find a line that is known as the what? As the polar front. You guys should remember that as well. Is known as the polar front. You guys come from grade 10 and beyond. So what is a front basically? Why do we call it a front? What is a front? What is a front? What's the difference between a front and just a line?
I think, may I answer it?
Yes.
I think a front is a line where two air masses meet.
Okay, that's partially correct. That's partially correct, but there's something that you are missing. And what are you missing? It is the temperature. You are right when you say that it is a line where two air masses meet. But when we have got warm air, let me just use the red color to represent it. So when we have got some warm air, and it is meeting or it is converging with cold air. Okay, so when some warm air and some cold air is meeting or are meeting with one another, they cannot mix. You guys still remember from grade 11 that cold air and warm air do not mix. Do you know that?
Yes, sir.
Yes, so instead, since they do not mix, they are separated by a front. Yes, Sam, what's your question?
So, say if they can meet, well, the cold air will leave the warm air, or what? So,
No, they cannot meet actually. They will have a boundary between them, and that boundary is the front. That is why we have a front in the first place. So a front is more like the border or the boundary where a warm air mass and a cold air mass meet or they converge with one another. Okay, because they cannot mix with each other. If you take warm air and you take cold air, there will always be a boundary between them, and that boundary is known as a front. It is more like an imaginary line. It's not really something that you can see with your eyes and say, there is a front. I can see what that air and that air are not mixing. You guys cannot even see air. But the geographers and the geoscientists, they researched and they found out that if we have got some warm air and cold air, they cannot mix with each other. Some warm air and cold air cannot mix with each other. Instead, they are separated by what? By a front. So between cold and warm air, we find a front. Are we still together there?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So now, since we say that here at the 60 degrees line of latitude, there is a polar front. So it means, Oti, the air masses that are meeting or that are converging at the 60 degrees line of latitude, they must be different. Some of the air must be warm, some of the air must be cold. Okay? Some of the air must be warm, some of the air must be cold. So for us to have a polar front, it means we are having two masses that are different. We have got one that is cold air, we have got another one that is warm air. Now the question is, which winds converge at the polar front? Let's ask ourselves, which air masses converge or they meet at the 60 degrees line of latitude to form the polar front? Which ones are those?
warm winds and cold winds.
Siyanqoba, I can see the hand. Guys, you should raise hands when you're answering. Siyanqoba.
I think it is the cold wind and warm wind.
Yes, you are right. When you say cold wind and warm wind, yes, they are different MSs. But now I want their names in this case. Looking at this diagram. Yes, Tahatso. Let's start with Tahatso. Tahatso, your hand is up. You can talk.
So I think it's the westerlies and the polar easterlies.
Okay. Yes, Trevor, what can you say?
So I wanted to say the same thing.
Same thing. And there's another one who's raising their hands. What do you want to say? There are now more people raising hands here. Rolibua?
So it's warm tropical air that's meeting the cold polar air.
Okay, cool. You guys have got similar answers, right? So you can see that from this diagram, guys, the air that is meeting at the polar front, or the air that is converging at the polar front, we have got this air, which is the westerlies from the 30 degrees line of latitude, that is converging with these easterlies that are coming from the polar regions, these polar easterlies. You can see these polar easterlies. So basically, the westerlies, their temperature is warm. So when we talk about westerlies, most of the times, don't just write westerlies. You must always say warm westerlies, so that you can emphasize that the temperature of the westerlies is high. The wind, known as the westerlies, is hot wind. It's actually air that is warm. Okay, so we say that those are warm westerlies. So it means that the polar easterlies, they must be what? Must they be warm or cold?
Cold.
They must be cold, because remember that when they meet at the front, there must be different MSs. So here it means that the polar easterlies are what? Are cold. So most of the times, whenever we talk about polar easterlies, don't just say polar easterlies. You must say cold polar easterlies, warm westerlies. Are we still together so far?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, this is revision. Why am I emphasizing a lot on this? I think I've already spent a lot of time emphasizing the same thing. It is because here, when it comes to geography, we are going to do what we say is known as a mid-latitude cyclone. And the mid-latitude cyclone forms in this way. Let's look at the general information. So remember, we said the polar front, it is where the warm westerlies converge with the cold polar easterlies. Do you see that the terms that I'm now using, I'm saying warm westerlies. Don't just say westerlies. It's what? It's warm westerlies. They are converging with the cold polar easterlies at the polar front. So basically, there are 4 processes that will occur there so that we can form a certain weather pattern that is known as a mid-latitude cyclone. So basically, the mid-latitude cyclone is just a certain weather disaster or a weather pattern that forms at the polar front. Yes, Sam, what's the question?
So, sir, there is no need to know cells, like Boma-Farrell cells and so forth.
Well, for this one, the cells are not really important. You guys can do revision on the cells, the Ferrel cell, the mid-latitude or the mid-latitude cell, and all of those cells and pressure belts. But for now, when it comes to mid-latitude cyclone, it doesn't really play that much of a role. We are most interested in these 2 winds, the warm westerlies and the cold polar easterlies. Okay, but most of the times when you are revising, you will have to revise all of that just to refresh your mind. Okay, so the mid-latitude cyclone, yes, Siyanqoba?
I just want to ask that when they say warm westerlies converge with cold polar easterlies, because I would say like they meet.
Yes, the word converge in this case, the word converge, it means that 2 MSs are meeting with each other heads on. Okay, so it means that we are having two MSs. We have got a warm MS, which are the warm westerlies, and they are meeting with the what? With the cold polar easterlies.
Okay. So
Yes, and then they meet at the polar front. Remember, the front separates these two different MSs. So now, a mid-latitude cyclone has got other names such as a moderate cyclone. You can call it an extratropical cyclone. You can call it a temperate cyclone. You can call it a frontal depression. So basically, a mid-latitude cyclone has got 5 names in total. Okay, so you can call it a mid-latitude cyclone, or you can call it a moderate cyclone, or you can call it an extratropical cyclone, or you can call it a temperate cyclone, or a frontal depression. All of these names are synonyms of this weather disaster or this weather pattern that is formed at the polar front. Are we still good?
Yes, sir.
Cool. Let's now get to the conditions. What do we actually require so that we can form this mid-latitude cyclone? Actually, what are the conditions, the weather conditions that are required for this mid-latitude cyclone to form? So we just require 2 things, guys, which are the things that I've already stated. Just ignore the entire Earth and focus here at the polar front. That this is the whole focus point for your entire grade 12. You won't be looking at other places beside here at the polar front. So at the polar front, what do we actually require for a mid-latitude cyclone to form? There must be a cold polar MS. We are talking about the polar easterlies, right? There must be cold polar MS, which is the cold air. These easterlies, remember the polar easterlies, they are cold, right? We say they are cold polar easterlies, the ones that are coming from the 90 degrees line of latitude. So this MS that's coming from the 90 degrees line of latitude is known as the what? As the cold polar MS or cold polar easterlies, the formal name. And what else do we need to form a mid-latitude cyclone? We need some warm MS. Where is the warm air coming from, guys? What is the name of the warm wind that we have talked about so far? Yes, Trevor?
It's a warm westerly winds.
Yes, it's warm westerlies, okay? Warm westerly wind, or you can say warm westerlies. So these warm westerlies that are coming from the 30 degrees line of latitude, they are also required so that we can form a mid-latitude cyclone. So we are only interested in these 2, guys. Okay, that is why I am emphasizing them the most. So basically, why do we require them to converge? Because we are saying that for a mid-latitude cyclone to form, we must have cold polar MS and warm MS that will do what? That will converge at the polar front. So now when they converge, these MSs, this actually causes an imbalance in the energy distribution, meaning that basically when these 2 MSs converge, there will be an imbalance. The term imbalance simply means that something is the opposite of another. I'm sure here we're having warm air, which is the warm westerlies from the 30 degrees line of latitude, this warm air mass, okay? And then we're having the cold polar easterlies from the 90 degrees line of latitude, this cold polar easterlies. So now there's an imbalance of energy distribution because some of the air is warm, some of the air is cold. So there is a difference in the energy distribution. That's what we see. That's what we mean when we say that there is an imbalance in energy distribution because their temperatures are different. Okay, the temperature of this air that is coming from the 30 degrees line of latitude, which are the westerlies, it is hot. They are warm actually. Let me not say hot. This is warm air. But the ones that are coming from the 90 degrees line of latitude, they are what? They are cold. So we say that there's a what? There's an imbalance in the energy distribution. And this imbalance, it is the reason that will form a mid-latitude cyclone. So these are the conditions that we require. So basically, if you guys hear of heavy rainfall, or you hear of immense weather conditions, or you hear that there's a wind that has destroyed places in KZN, sometimes it's tropical cyclone, sometimes it's a mid-latitude cyclone. Okay, So basically it causes harsh weather conditions, but we'll get to that later on. But for this cyclone to develop, we say that we require 4 stages. There are 4 stages in the development of a mid-latitude cyclone. The first one is the initial stage. The second one is the development stage. The third one is a mature stage. And then the last one is an occluded stage. So you guys are probably using other textbooks such as Focus. I'm not trying to say don't use Focus as the textbook, but I'm trying to tell you that there are 4 stages in the formation of a mid-latitude cyclone. Please don't look for other ones, okay? There are different writers, yes, we know, but for your curriculum and for your grade, please stick to these 4, because I'm sure that someone will raise up their hand and they will tell me there is a dissipating stage. Who was about to say that? I have a feeling that someone was about to say that. Yes, the heart.
Yes, I was actually looking at it.
Yes, you see. So basically stick to these 4 guys. These ones are the ones that we use for your curriculum. These are the stages that we recognize for the development of a mid-latitude cyclone according to the curriculum that we're using so far. Okay, so we are going to look at each and every stage and try to see how does this end up becoming a huge weather system, and how does this end up causing a lot of rainfall and all of that, because here we're just having 2 winds that are meeting with each other. So what's the big deal? Let's start with the initial stage. So the first thing at the initial stage, you hear the word initial. What does initial means? What does it mean?
From the start.
Yes, at the start, right? So this is the first stage in the development of a mid-latitude cyclone. So at the first stage, the polar front is stationary, meaning that the polar front, it is not moving, it is just a straight line. Remember, guys, that we said that the polar front is just a what? It's just a line that is separating the warm westerlies and the cold polar easterlies. I'm sure that's what we said, right? We said that the polar front, it is what? It is just a line or a boundary that is separating the warm westerlies and the cold polar easterlies. So this is more like I'm zooming it in, guys. This is the 60 degrees line of latitude. Do you still remember it from the first diagram? Do you still remember it? This line here. Do you see it? The 60 degrees line of latitude. Do you all see it, guys?
Yes.
So
Yes,
I'm going
sir.
to zoom it in. So I'm zooming it in so that you guys can see more details. So I'm zooming in. This is the polar front, right? So during the initial stage, what are we having? The polar front is just stationary. It is not moving. It is just a boundary separating this warm and the cold air masses. So now we are having warm westerly winds, and we are also having cold polar easterlies. Remember the warm westerly winds, it is the warm westerlies, right? You still remember the westerlies, right? So, and we're having cold
Yes.
polar easterlies, and these are blowing in opposite directions, guys. They are blowing in what? In opposite directions.
Opposite direction.
Yes, it means that they are converging actually. Because remember that if we are moving in opposite direction, it means that we're gonna meet. We know that, right? For example, if I say that this is a person moving to the right, and then we have got another person moving to the left, these people are going to do what? They're gonna meet at the center. They're gonna converge with one another. Do we all get the sense?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So basically here we are having what? We're having the warm westerly winds. So the warm westerly winds, they are coming from the 30 degrees line of latitude. And we're having the what? We are also having the cold polar easterlies, and they are blowing in opposite direction. So for you to see clearly, most of the times they will just draw the warm westerly winds like this. Okay, these are the warm westerly winds, and then we are having the cold polar easterlies on the other side of the front, and they are blowing in opposite directions. Okay, this is just for you to see clearly. All right, So these red ones, these are the warm westerly winds or the warm westerlies. All right. And then this blue one, it is the what? It is the cold polar easterlies. So there's nothing much that is happening in the initial stage. We're just having these two MSs converging with one another. I was still in the same concept. I was still on the same page.
Yes, sir.
So now, since the MSs have got they've got different temperatures, right? So some of it is warm, some of it is cold. It means that they also have a different density and they also have different humidities. Because remember in grade 11, you learned that warm air, it is more humid than cold air. You still remember that, right? Do you still remember that from grade 11? You need to remember that warm air is more humid than cold air, and cold air is more dense than warm air. You still need to remember that. Okay, so here we have got two MSs that are having a different temperature. Okay, so they cannot mix because they're having a different temperature, different density, and different humidities. Are we still together?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So
Yes, sir.
taking it slowly, because these MSs are not mixing with one another, instead, what will happen? They will have a frictional drag. So we use the term frictional drag. You guys are doing physics. Some of you guys are doing physics. You know what friction is, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So, okay, let's just explain it in simple terms. So these two MSs, they cannot mix with each other, but they are blowing towards each other, but they cannot mix with each other. So they will keep on having this fight. They will keep on fighting with each other. Imagine, guys, that these things cannot mix, but they are trying to move in opposite directions. Okay, it's like you are colliding. It's like two people that are colliding. Okay, let's just say here using this black arrow, this person here is trying to go that direction, but this other red person here is trying to go this direction, and all of them are pushing each other to go where they want. So do you see that there's a fight between these two MSs because they cannot mix with one another? Do we get the sense?
Yes.
So because these two MSs, they cannot mix with one another, instead what will happen? There will be a frictional drag between them. Okay, there will be a frictional drag between them. So you need to know that that's all about the initial stage. And most of the times the diagram that they use to describe initial stage, it is this one, the one that I drew here next to this one, because it's more clear. You can see this one is more clear. So you can see here we are having warm air. Do you see the warm air? This is the warm air. It is blowing in that direction. And then on the other side, we're having the cold air. And then the cold air, it is blowing in the opposite direction because these must blow in the opposite direction. So we have got the warm air on one side, then we have got the cold air on the other side. Yes, Yangoba? What's your question, Yangoba?
Sir, I wanted to ask you, what type of question do they ask like the initial stage?
Don't worry, we will get to the questions. We'll get to the questions. For now, we cannot have so many questions. For now, we are still building a bit of your understanding because most of the practice questions you will do, they will probably be asking something that we haven't done yet. But for now, we are building an understanding that you guys understand what happens in the initial stage. In case they ask you to describe the initial stage, that is when you have to explain during the initial stage, the polar front, it is just stationary. It is just a line that is just standing still, a line that is not moving. Okay, and then on one side of the line, we have got warm air. We have got a warm air mass, which are the warm westerlies. And then on the other side of this line or of this polar front, we have got what? We have got cold air that is blowing in another direction. So these two, when they are meeting here at the 60 degrees line of latitude, they do not have the same temperature, they do not have the same density, they do not have the same humidity, because they are different air masses, so they cannot mix. What's most important here, it is what I have highlighted here in bold. They cannot mix. Okay, so since they cannot mix, what does this mean? It means that they will keep on pushing each other, pushing each other, pushing each other. You see that, right? Because they are having a frictional drag. So you can see what I've highlighted here, the frictional drag. So these are the most important things that you need to know. We have got this one is 1, the polar front is stationary. 2, the warm MSs and the cold MSs cannot mix. And then 3, they are having a frictional drag. In case they ask you to describe the initial stage. Yes, Sam, what's the question?
So, in other words, warm westerlies, they ascend, which is we are phezulu, therefore all cold polar easterlies, they descend. Normal.
For now, they are still blowing and they are dragging each other for now in the initial stage. But as we go forward, you will see how that process works, because you are raising an important point to say that warm air rises, and that's true. But we'll see that after the initial stage. Yes, Yangoba, we've got less than 1 minute. Make it snappy.
Okay, so just wanted to ask you, the frictional drag, we can say it's a polar front, since when they can't meet, they have frictional drag, and in the polar front, and also air can't meet.
Yes, so actually the frictional drag is at the polar front, because that's where they are meeting. Like they are not able to mix, so they are just pushing each other around the polar front or along the polar front. Okay, so they are pushing, they are blowing in opposite directions, pushing each other along the polar front. Okay, let's go for a 10 minutes break. We'll come back. Hey Lapo, I know that you've been enjoying this wonderful video, and most likely you've been enjoying watching this handsome face in front of you, but sorry ladies, I'm taken. I just here to tell you that Educate is on the road to 100,000 subscribers by the end of 2025. So please click the subscribe button and click the notification bell so that you get notifications whenever I post new videos. I want you guys to pass. Okay, so if you make my dream true, I reach 100k subscribers, I will make your dreams come true. I will even get you to varsity. I will get you with 7 distinctions. Yes. So just a summary. We started doing the initial stage, which is the first stage in the development of a mid-latitude cyclone, and we have mentioned a couple of facts such as that during the initial stage the polar front is not moving, it is stationary. We say that we're having the warm westerlies. You still remember them from the map, right? The warm westerlies and the cold polar easterlies, and they are blowing in opposite directions. And we said that these two MSs are different from one another because they've got different temperatures, they've got different densities, they've got different humidities, so they can never mix. So these MSs are different from one another in terms of temperature, in terms of density, in terms of humidity, hence they cannot mix with one another. And we say that since they are not mixing with one another, they will start having a frictional drag between them. So we say that the initial stage, there are not too many questions that they ask about them, but it builds the foundational idea of how this forms. But are you guys still following up in the correct sense here? Yes, Trevor?
So I want to ask that if you say they start having a frictional drag, so you mean ukuthi layer number is as hard as it try to push a layer enye okay, asithi i-warm westerlies itry ukupusha i-cold polar warm westerlies itry ukupusha i-cold polar easterlies. So as zitry ukupushana ilapho i-frictional drag iqala ukwenzeka khona.
Yes. Okay, so sorry guys, since he's talking with isiZulu, but I don't think he said any big words. But basically, he was asking that, do we start having a frictional drag when they are pushing each other? Yes, indeed. It's more like they are pushing each other, and they cannot mix. Remember, they are pushing each other, so they will start having a frictional drag between them. All right. Let's now go to the second stage of development of a mid-latitude cyclone. Yabona nje, once you understand this development stage, I think it will be easier to understand the other stages because it is the trickier one. So the development stage of a mid-latitude cyclone is otherwise known as the wave stage of a mid-latitude cyclone. So whenever you hear me saying wave stage, it is absolutely the same thing as saying development stage. So wave stage, it means development stage. It's one and the same thing. Okay, before we even reveal information about this one, guys, I want you to use your imagination strongly for this one, okay? Don't just cram, use your imagination. So I'm going to draw something here. Okay, let me just draw something here. I want you guys to use your imagination, by the way. This is a line. And then we are having two people that are punching. Let's just say maybe this is a soft line. It's a soft something. It's not something that is difficult to punch. So someone is punching it in that direction. The first person, the red person, is punching it in that direction. And the other person is punching it in this direction, right? So what do you think will happen to this line? Let's just say maybe it's a what? What can we put? A simple thing. Let's just say it's hey, I'm looking for an example, something punchable. But basically, we have got one person pushing on one side and the other on the other side. Yes, Sam?
So in other words, you're trying to say as the punch from the other side and this side, it's going to form something like a tornado.
Okay. That's okay, that's something. Good imagination. Who else is raising their hands? You can open the mic, Siangova.
I think when the red one punches and the blue one punches, is going to form a S shape.
Yes, an S shape. That's good reasoning as well. Is there anyone else who would try to imagine this? Okay, it looks like no one else is imagining. It's just these two guys here. So if this red one punches so much, this line, it will kind of shift and it will become something like this, right? And then if this blue one punches so much, this line, it will shift and it will become, okay, let me just draw here. So this, if the blue one punches, this line will become something like this. Do you kind of see the sense, guys?
Yes.
Yes. So do you see, guys, that at first the line, it was a straight line. It was exactly straight, but because the red one punched this way, it kind of formed this wave shape. And then the blue one punched this way, it forms another wave shape. Do you kind of see that? Is that visible to everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So basically, that's what happens during the development stage. That's why we say it's known as the wave stage. Just take your imagination and apply it to this. So now, remember that we said that these two MSs are having a frictional drag during the initial stage because they cannot mix and they are blowing in opposite directions. So the polar front, it will change its shape to look like a wave. So the polar front will change its shape to look like a what? To look like a wave. Just like the example of a line that I gave you to say that if one person punches on one side, like this and the other person punching on the other side, your line will end up looking like this. You see? Something like this. Alright. Similar thing happens. Remember that at the initial stage, what did we say happens? At the initial stage, we said that we are having warm westerlies that are pushing this, that are blowing in this direction, and on the other side we're having cold polar easterlies that are blowing in the opposite direction. So these two are pushing the polar front. So the polar front will end up changing its shape to become something like a wave. All right. So the polar front, instead of writing it as a straight line, we will write it as a wave. So I'm just going to write a smaller dent in a wave like this. Okay. So we'll draw it as a wave. Remember the polar front, it was a straight line at the 60 degrees line of latitude, right? But now it looks like what? It looks like a wave. Why is it looking like a wave? It is because of that frictional drag between these two air masses, because they are fighting with each other. They're actually pushing in opposite direction, but on the same polar front. Just like in this example, to say that one of the air masses is pushing like this, another one is pushing in the opposite direction. So the polar front can never be straight in that way. Okay, it can never be straight in that way. So if you imagine punching one thing in opposite direction, that thing will no longer remain straight. It will start forming a wave-like shape. So the polar front will start bending because of that frictional drag between these two air masses. Are we together?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So a small mass, now Sam's point comes into play now. A small mass of warm air extends into the cold air mass and rises. Yes, iPhone, what's your question?
So sir, you're saying that in the line is bending because of the friction that's being caused by the warm air and the cold air.
Yes, exactly. So basically, the polar front is changing its shape to form a wave because of that frictional drag between these two air masses.
Oh, okay.
Do you kind of understand how it works using that example of punching something?
Yes, sir.
Okay, awesome. So now after the punching and the punching, a small mass of warm air. So a small mass of warm air. So some of the warm westerlies, we are no longer going to call them the westerlies anymore. We'll just call them warm air because now there's been a lot that has changed. Okay, they are fighting with each other. They are no longer blowing in the same way. So now a small mass of warm air, it extends into the cold air. So you see, remember that the warm air was found on this side, right? The warm air is the red one here. It was found on this way. So on the development stage or during the development stage, a small mass of warm air will just extend into the cold air. Just a small mass of warm air. Because as they are fighting, they cannot really mix. But this warm air, just a small piece of warm air, it will extend into the what? Into the cold air. Just a small mass of warm air. I don't have good drawing skills to show you guys, but try to imagine it to say with him some of the warm air, just a bit of warm air from the westerlies. Remember there is warm air here, right? Remember this side we're having the warm westerlies. So a small mass of warm air, it will just extend into the cold air. And when it extends into the cold air, it will rise. Sam, are you still here? You still remember that you asked yourself, Uti, what happens to warm air? Warm air rises. Warm air, it rises. So a small mass of warm air will just extend into the cold air. Because remember that on one side we're having the warm air, on the other side we're having the cold air. So we are still having warm air here. There is still warm air on this side, right? And there is still cold air on the other side. There is still cold air on the other side. But due to this frictional drag, you can see now that the air is actually bending this polar front. Okay. So a small amount or a small mass of warm air will just extend and go to the cold air and go to the cold air. And when it extends, it will rise. You see, it rises up because you remember that warm air is light. Warm air is not heavy. You still remember that warm air rises from grade 11, right?
Yes.
We still remember that, grade 12s.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Yes, Yangoba.
Yeah, when you say the small mass of warm air will extend to that cold air, so the cold air is going down, it subsides, right?
Yes.
So when the warm air will rise, what will happen because the cold air is subsiding and the warm air is rising? What would happen?
Yes, we are still going there. Don't worry. When it reaches the mature stage, you'll see that the cold air will remain on the ground, but all the warm air will rise up. But that is not for the development stage. For now, just imagine just that small mass of warm air rising. Just imagine and say that, let's just say this one, it is still there. This warm air, it is still there. I'm sure it was the warm westerlies at first, but we are just going to call it warm air now. So this warm air, it is still there. And just a small piece, it extends into the cold air and it rises. So we don't actually draw it. We don't actually draw it so that we kind of complicate things less for you guys. Okay? But don't worry.
Okay.
All the warm air will end up rising at some point.
Okay.
Yeah. So now, what happens, guys, when warm air rises? What kind of pressure system do we form when warm air rises?
Low pressure system.
Yes, a low pressure system. You guys need to remember your grade 11 work. This is so dependent on grade 11 work. You need to remember that warm air has got a low atmospheric pressure. So when we are talking about warm air, just remember that it has got a small air pressure or a small atmospheric pressure. A low, actually, not a small. You guys should correct my English. That's not small, it's low. So we have got a low air pressure. So warm air does not have so much pressure. Okay, it is not that violent. It is just air that is calm. Okay, warm air is calmer. It has got a low air pressure. And then what about cold air? How much pressure does cold air have?
Cold air have a high pressure.
Yes, Trevor, cold air has got a high atmospheric pressure, or it's a high air pressure. Cold air, guys, it is the one that actually blows violently. It is the one that blows roughly than warm air. Warm air, it is calm. It just rises. It is just stable. Okay, but cold air just blows violently because it has got a higher atmospheric pressure. Do you kind of get the sense?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Sam?
sir.
Yes, Sam, what is the question?
So in other words, the rising air causes a pressure to decrease.
Yes.
Normal.
So this small warm air that has extended into the cold air, the rising of the small warm air, it will cause the pressure to decrease. It will cause a low pressure. So a low pressure will develop. That's why we write a small L here. Okay. So it is not really that much low, but sometimes we don't even draw the L because it is just a small amount of warm air that has risen. So sometimes they will not draw the L. They will not draw the L sometimes. So you guys shouldn't be shocked if you don't see L here. In fact, let me wrap it off so that you guys kind of get used to something like this. I will show you how do you identify this this development stage. Okay, so one thing that you should notice, this polar front, it will start having these spikes, something like this, and then having these round like spikes, and then having these spikes again, and then having these round like spikes, and then these spikes, and then these round like spikes. For now, don't bother yourself with what are they. We are still going to do them properly. But when you just see your polar front starting to have these triangles and these arcs, these triangles and these arcs, this triangle and this arcs, just know that it's a development stage. Okay, sometimes they will not write the low pressure because the low pressure is not really that low, because it's only a small mass of warm air that has risen. It's not that much air. Okay, so the pressure is not going to be that low. So sometimes in the exam they will give you a diagram that doesn't have an L here. Don't be surprised when you see that. Are we clear there, grade 12s?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So now the rising air, the warm rising air, guys, when you describe, you must be a very, very, very precise here. The warm rising air, don't just say the rising air, you have to say that the warm rising air, it results in a low pressure, okay, developing at the center of the polar front wave. So here there is a slightly low pressure, a small low pressure, but sometimes they will not write the L, bear in mind. Remember that, okay, we're still going to the mature stage. So this is the development stage. It's known as the wave stage. That's where the polar front changes its shape to look like a wave, because these MSs, they are pushing each other, guys. You can see that this red MS is pushing into this side. This blue MS, which is the cold one, it is pushing into the other side. So that frictional drag continues and continues and continues, causing this to be what? Causing this polar front to be like a wave. So this is known as the wave stage. Look at this diagram next to my illustration. Do you see this diagram next to my illustration?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So you can see that here, we still have got the warm air on one side, we still have got the cold air on the other side, but there's a small low pressure system at the center of the wave to show that there's a small amount of warm air that has risen, creating a slightly small low pressure system. And remember, sometimes they will not write L here. Just so you know, how do you identify that there's a development stage? You will see these shapes, these triangles and these rounds, these triangles and these rounds mixed together. You can see that they're mixed together here, right? We have got triangle, round, triangle, round, triangle, round. So these shapes will explain them. What do they mean? So now let's go to the mature stage. So when we say that a mid-latitude cyclone, it is now mature, it means that it is at its highest power. You guys know what maturity means, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it is fully developed. When you say that mature is fully developed, okay? So basically at the mature stage, now remember that we said that during the development stage, a small mass of warm air rises, but at the mature stage, more warm air rises. So there's more warm air that is keeping on rising and rising and rising and rising and rising and rising and rising. So as this warm air keeps on rising too much, it means that our low pressure cell is going to be more intense. Okay, remember that we said that here during the development stage, sometimes they will not indicate this L for low pressure because it's only a small air mass that has risen. But during the mature stage, there is now more warm air rising. Yes, iPhone, what's the question?
Sir, I'm still confused on how the low pressure is formed.
Well, basically, when we've got warm air rising, we say that we've got a low pressure cell, basically. The fact that warm air is rising means that there is low pressure.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's not really something that you can go out there and see and say, I can see a low pressure there. No, it's something imaginary. Okay, these pressure cells is something that we model. These are just models to describe what we are having warm air rising. So whenever you see a low pressure cell, bear in mind that there's warm air rising there. It's just a sign to show us that there's warm air rising. Yes, Trevor, what's the question?
So I wanted to ask, if a small mass of warm air decide to extend into the cold air,
Yes. Yes.
then kuba ne-low pressure
Yes.
So mina ngifuna ukubuza manje ukuthi if a small mass of cold air decided to be the one extending in the warm air, were we going to have a high pressure instead of a low pressure?
Well, unfortunately, that cannot happen. Basically, cold air can never extend into warm air. Okay, reason being, remember that cold air is heavy, so cold air is dense. Okay, so cold air is not easily blown away. Cold air does not just blow away easily because it is what? It is heavy. It is more dense. But warm air is light. I see. Warm air is light. It is very light. It just simply means that it is like literally light. It's not heavy. Okay, so warm air is the one that is likely to just blow away into the cold air than the cold air doing that. So cold air doesn't really do that because cold air is dense, it is heavy, it's not easily blown away. Okay, so it cannot just easily blow into the warm air. That's why here we just say a small mass of warm air. It is the one that extends to the cold air because warm air is easily blown away. I mean, if you guys go when you are cooking or when you are boiling some water, you see the steam that is coming from the water. It's an example of warm air. If you take your hand and you just blow the air, it is easily blown away. But you cannot do that to cold air. Okay, because cold air is heavy. It is dense. Do we get the sense, Trev?
Yes.
Yeah, so please make sure that it's the warm air that's rising. So as more warm air rises, it means that we're going to have more low pressure. Our low pressure is going to be more intense. The word intensify simply means that now at first we said that our low pressure wasn't so much, there was not so much low pressure because it was just a small amount of warm air. But now there's more warm air that is rising. More warm air is rising and rising and rising and rising and rising because it is light, because it is easy to just rise. Okay, it is light. So basically there's more warm air that is rising, meaning that our low pressure is going to be intense. So when we draw it, this is still our wave, okay, but we don't call it a wave stage now. So how are you going to identify? So the pressure here at the center, it is going to be above 1000 hectopascals. So when you see the pressure at the center becoming above 1000 hectopascals, it means that it is now low, it is now decreasing. Let's just go back to the development stage and try to see. Okay, if you look at the development stage, guys, the pressure at the center here, it was 1004. Do you guys see here where I'm highlighting 1004 hectopascals?
Yes, sir.
Yes, this is during the development stage. And look at this now. This is now a mature stage. During the mature stage here, we've got 1006 hectopascals. Okay, it's fine. Let's not mind too much of the numbers because during the mid-latitude cyclone, the numbers are not questioned too much. But when you get to the tropical cyclone, please always read these numbers when we get to the tropical cyclone, Jal. For now, in the mid-latitude cyclone, let us just say in the mature stage, we have got an intense low pressure cell. Okay, there's an L here. Whenever you see an L that is definitely written like this, it means that this is now an intense low pressure cell. But that is not really enough evidence for you to say that this is a mature stage, right? Now we have got two fronts that will develop. Aren't you guys, this was the polar front. This wave was the polar front. You still remember that this was a polar front, right?
Yes.
But now it will change. It will now have two sections. One of the sections will have these triangular shapes, okay? And the other sections will have these circular shapes. So now your polar front is no longer a polar front, okay? So one of the sides has got this triangular shape. On the other side, there are these round shapes. But what do these shapes even represent? Like, what's the big deal about them? So basically, this shape means that this is a cold front. You've learned of a cold front from grade 10. I know that you know, guys, what I'm talking about, but I'm pretending that I'm teaching grade 10s. Fine. These triangular shapes means that this is a what? A cold front, right? It's a cold front. And then these circular shapes, it means that this is a what? It's a warm front. You can see. So once you see a cold front, a fully developed cold front, and a warm front. When you see a cold front, a fully developed one, and a warm front, it means that it is in a mature stage. So whenever they ask you, Uti, what evidence can you give that this mid-latitude cyclone is in a mature stage? You should start saying, Uti, you can see a well-developed cold front this side and a well-developed warm front on the other side. Here there is a warm front on the other side. Do you see that, guys?
Yes, sir.
Let's look at the development stage. I'll emphasize this until you see it. This is not the same thing, guys. Remember, on the development stage, what did we say? We have got triangular shapes mixed with these round shapes. So you cannot say it's a cold front. You cannot say it's a warm front because there's a mixture of air. Not with the air is mixing per se, but that frictional drag, it kind of makes it okay, without complicating things, there's a mixture of these triangular shapes and these round shapes. So don't say cold front, don't say warm front here. You can only say cold front, warm front when we have got what? When we've got these triangular shapes and these circular shapes. Do we all see that? Are we asleep?
Yes, sir. No, sir.
No.
Don't sleep. Wake up, land. This is grade 12, guys. You should be like super focused. These triangular shapes, it means that this is a what? Is it a cold or a warm front?
It's a cold.
And then these circular shapes, yes, it's a warm front. So yes, you don't call it the polar front anymore. We now have a cold and a warm front. Yes, Trevor, what's the question? Yes, Trevor, you can ask the question as you're raising your hand.
Oh, sorry. So I wanted to ask you if masahlangene ama-triangle nama-circle kusase
Yes.
i-polar front, I guess.
Yeah, it's still a polar front, yeah.
So if separate manje kulapho sesidivide khona enye iba i-cold front nenye iba i-warm front, angithi say.
Spot on. Usho khona. So Trevor is asking if we're having the mixture of triangles and circles, it is still a polar front. Yes, it is still a polar front that is a wave shape, okay? If we are still having a mixture of triangles and circular shapes. But the moment we start having triangular shapes alone, it means that it's now a cold front. When you start having circular shapes alone, it means it's a warm front. Yes, Yangoba?
So I wanted to ask, whenever you have written the problem stage, point number 2, the system movies are not words.
Yeah, don't worry. We'll explain that one. I didn't forget it. I skipped it on purpose because I wanted us to explain these two fronts so that you don't kind of get lost there.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, don't worry. Yes, Trevor?
So say in other words, we can identify a development stage with a mixture of the triangles and the circles, and also identify a mature stage with the masses separate.
Yes. Exactly. So at development stage, you can identify it with this mixture. But when you answer the question, what do you say? You will say that the polar front, it looks like a wave. You won't say there's a mixture of triangles and circles, guys. Okay, these are just models to describe this thing. But what do you know in your mind is that during the development stage, it looks like a wave. The polar front, it looks like a wave. That's one evidence that this is a development stage. Okay, and then when it comes to mature stage, you know that there's a well-developed cold front and there's a well-developed warm front. Are we together?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So added information, the cold front has got cold air behind it. Remember, guys, that this side had cold air, those cold polar easterlies. I'm sure at first they were called polar easterlies, but now we'll just call it cold air. So the cold front has got some cold air behind it. So the cold front consists of cold air behind it. All right. And then the warm front the warm front here, you can see this is the warm front. It has got some warm air behind it as well. Remember, they were warm westerlies, but now we are just gonna call them warm air. That's how we differentiate between these two fronts. Okay. Do we get each other? Yes, Sam?
Yes.
Yes, siyatholana. So, sir, what are the warm sectors?
Don't worry, we're getting there. That's the next point. Now, the region, to answer your question, the region that is filled with cold air is known as the cold sector. So all of this place, guys, that has got cold air, you can see all of this place that has got blue arrows representing cold air. It is known as the what? The warm sector. So this entire place, this entire region is known as the what? The warm, the cold sector, because it consists of what? Of cold air. So whenever you hear me talking of a sector, we are talking about a big region consisting a certain amount of air, a certain type of air. So this one that I just highlighted using a yellow lines or using a yellow highlighter is known as the cold sector. So the cold sector, it is just this place that is filled with cold air is known as the cold sector. Are you guys getting me? Are you guys hearing? Yes, don't
Yes,
sleep. This is a cold sector because it is filled with cold air. And then the other side is known as the warm sector. So this place that is filled with some warm air is known as the warm sector. So this place that has got warm air, it is known as the what? The warm sector. This whole region, the entire place is known as the warm sector. So do you see that?
Yes.
So one of the evidences that you can give of a mature stage of a mid-latitude cyclone is that there is a warm sector and there is a cold sector, because we can only have a warm sector and a cold sector if and only if it is in the mature stage. If it is not in the mature stage, there is no warm sector, there is no cold sector. If it is not in the mature stage, but the moment the mid-latitude cyclone matures, that is when it will have a region filled with cold air, known as the cold sector, then a region filled with warm air, known as the warm sector. But remember that this warm air keeps on rising and rising and rising and rising and rising. Are we getting the sense? Now, one thing that's most important, which is point number 5 here, the cold air behind the cold front is dense. Guys, I repeat this thing of density for the millionth time and say that cold air is dense, guys. So this cold air that you can see represented by blue arrows behind the cold front, it is what? It is dense. Okay? And remember that I say that cold air, it kind of forms these conditions because it moves faster. You see something that is heavy, it moves faster. But warm air, it rises, but it doesn't move faster, okay? So the cold front is the air behind the cold front, this cold air behind the cold front, or this cold air in the cold sector. It is dense, it is heavy, and it moves faster. So since it is moving faster, it actually forces the warm air, the warm moist air in the warm sector to rise. So basically what's happening here, remember that these arrows are showing the direction of the cold air. Do you see these arrows, these blue arrows? They are showing the direction of the what? Of the cold air. So basically this cold air is moving so fast, guys. So this cold air is dense and it's moving fast. So as it is moving faster, it is forcing this warm air at the warm sector to rise. Because guys, you know that warm air rises. Warm air is light, so it will be forced to rise. So we are going for a 10 minutes break one more time, and we'll come back and finish up so that you guys can go and sleep. So the Zoom meeting will switch off for the other 10 minutes break. We are coming back at 25 minutes past 10. Go and drink some water and make sure that you wake up, don't sleep. Hey Lapo, I know that you've been enjoying this wonderful video and most likely you've been enjoying watching this handsome face in front of you, but sorry ladies, I'm taken. I just here to tell you that Educate is on the road to 100,000 subscribers by the end of 2025. So please click the subscribe button and click the notification bell so that you get notifications whenever I post new videos. I want you guys to pass. Okay, so if you make my dream true, I reach 100k subscribers, I will make your dreams come true. I will even get you to varsity. I will get you with 7 distinctions. Yes. We talked about the intense low pressure system. We said we'll come back to this northward point. And we talked about the cold front and the warm front, a well-developed cold front and a well-developed warm front. We talked about these two. We talked about the warm sector and the cold sector, which is just the region that is filled with warm air and cold air, respectively. And now we were at this point, which was point number 5. I think which our meeting cut us short and we didn't explain it properly, right? So now, what are we trying to say here? Here, what happens? We say that the cold air, actually we say that behind the cold front, there is some cold air, right? Behind the cold front, there is some cold air behind the cold front. Are we clear on that?
Yes.
We can see the cold air, the blue cold air in this diagram is visible, right?
Yes, sir.
And then behind the warm front, there is some warm air behind the warm front. And we can see this red air, this maroon air. It is the warm air in the warm sector behind the warm front. We can see it, right?
Yes, sir.
Cool. Now, I repeat this and I say that the cold air that is found behind the cold front, it is dense. Cold air is always dense, or it is heavy. It is of heavy weight. It has got a bigger density. All right, so it is dense. So the cold air, it is dense. Therefore, the cold air moves faster. Okay, so cold air moves faster. You should know that the cold air is dense, it is heavy, but it also moves faster than the warm air. Are we getting that? It moves faster. Yes. Therefore, this cold air that is moving faster, it will actually force the warm air, the warm moist air in the warm sector to rise. Let's explain this using some sort of a illustration. Okay, I wish I was a graphic designer. I would be able to design graphics to explain this in a cooler way. All right, this is your cold front, right? And then this is your warm front. Cool. So behind the cold front, we have got cold, heavy air that is so dense and it is moving so fast. The speed of this air is so fast. So this cold, dense air, it is moving so fast in such a way that it is pushing this cold front, right? So basically it is pushing this cold front so that the cold front could go this direction. Guys, imagine this cold front, it is being pushed by this cold air behind it. Do you kind of get the imagination? You have to imagine more, guys, here, because I don't have good graphics to draw. Yes, Sam?
So, sir, what is the force that influences the speed of the winds? Yeah.
Pressure gradient force. According to your grade 11 work, you have learned of the pressure gradient force. When we have got a bigger pressure gradient, you are going to have stronger winds. When you have got a gentle pressure gradient, you're gonna have light winds. Yes, a steep pressure gradient, I mean.
Okay, so.
Yes. So the cold air behind this cold front, it is moving so fast, quick, right? And it is pushing this cold front, right? And then the warm air here, it is not moving so fast. The warm air that is found in the warm sector, it is not moving so fast. So basically, we know that warm air always rises. So as this cold air is pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing the warm air will be forced to rise, guys. So the warm air here, it will be forced to rise up because this is all happening at the Earth's surface. It's all happening at the ground. So this cold air that is moving fast and pushing the warm air, it's forcing this warm air in the warm sector to rise. Yes, Siyanqoba?
Imagination la.
Yes.
I was thinking that cold air, it is pushing the warm air, right?
Yes.
So here we will end up having the cold air only, because it will push and push and push until to the warm air.
Yes, exactly. That will happen. Good imagination, guys. You should borrow Siyanqoba's imagination. Where do you get that imagination? It's very good and it's correct. That is what will happen, because this cold air, it is pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing this warm air in the warm sector, and all of the warm air in the warm sector, it will end up just rising, all of it rising into the upper atmosphere. Do you get the sense? Do we kind of get the sense, guys? Yes, Sam?
Yes, sir, I get the sense. So when it reaches there in upper atmosphere, it will form cumulonimbus clouds or what?
Yes, that you see, you're already predicting what will happen because you guys are geniuses or what, but you guys are already predicting what will happen. But later on, we are still going to do the weather conditions associated with the mid-latitude cyclone. But Sam has already predicted, we'll see, all of this warm air, it will rise up and form some cumulonimbus clouds. But for now, don't stress yourself about this, right? Because we are still trying to explain the weather phenomenon that is happening here at the ground, at the earth's surface. It is just strong cold air that is moving so fast, pushing all of this warm air up. We are still going to do the side view of a mid-latitude cyclone. It will be more clear later on when we do that in our next session. So this cold air is pushing and forcing this warm air in the warm sector to rise. Do we get the sense? Do we hear each other, Nina? Don't sleep, please.
Yes, sir.
Don't sleep. You cannot be sleeping, guys. I can hear you guys are keeping quiet. You should agree with me here. This cold air is pushing the warm air to do what? To rise. All right. So now let's address the point number 2 from Sam, the one that says the system moves northward. This one requires us to go back to this diagram, right? To this diagram. Cool. So back in this diagram, the mid-latitude cyclone, where did we say that it forms, guys? The place, the location of formation, where does it form?
At the polar front.
Yes, at the polar front, which is approximately at the 60 degrees line of latitude, right? So since the mid-latitude cyclone is somewhere here along this polar front, it will start moving northwards. It will start going up towards the north. I'm sure you know that going to the north is something like this. We know our cardinal point system, it works like we have got north, we have got south, we have got east, then we have got west. So when it is moving northwards, it's kind of moving up using this scale. So basically, your mid-latitude cyclone, during its mature stage, when it is mature, it will move away from the polar front and it will move up and go towards the north, up and up and up. And do you see that there's South Africa somewhere here? Do you see South Africa, guys? Do you see South Africa?
Yes, sir.
Yes, there's South
Yes,
Africa.
sir.
Look carefully. There's a South Africa there. I cannot highlight because I'm zooming it in. There's a South Africa there. So the mid-latitude cyclone, it will move up to the north. Okay, so it will end up affecting us here in South Africa. All right, but we'll get to that later. So that happens during the mature stage. You don't really need diagrams to draw that. You just need to know that this mid-latitude cyclone, it moves northward. Is that understood, grade 12s?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Now let's go to Siyanqoba's imagination, the occluded stage. Siyanqoba says, if this cold air in the mature stage, this cold fast air keeps on pushing and pushing and forcing the warm air to rise, so all of the warm air will end up rising. right? So how will that look like in diagrammatic sense? So now the warm sector continues to narrow. That's the first thing that will happen. So the warm sector, the region with warm air, it will continue to narrow, meaning that it is becoming tinier. It is becoming narrower. Why is the warm sector becoming narrow? Open the mic. Why is the warm sector becoming narrow?
Oh, you are saying why is the warm air becoming narrow?
Yeah, the warm sector, yes. This place with warm air, why is it becoming smaller? Why is it becoming narrow? Like, why is it becoming so small in its area?
Because of the cold air keeps on pushing.
Yes. So the cold air, it keeps on forcing the warm air to rise and rise and rise. So let's just go back to the mature stage a bit, just to show you how will that look like. So according to what Mangoba imagined, if this cold air keeps on pushing this cold front, guys, it will end up being somewhere here. Do you see that the cold front will end up becoming somewhere here? You can see. So the cold front will end up here because the cold air is kind of pushing it, and it is forcing all the warm air in the warm sector to rise. All of it is rising. All right, so the cold front ends up shifting its position because it is being pushed. It is being pushed by what? It is being pushed by this cold air behind it. Do you see it? This cold air keeps on pushing and keeps on pushing, and this warm air that is found in this region, in the warm sector, it is rising and it is rising. So the warm sector, it becomes small. So there is a smaller region with warm air because the warm air is gone, guys. Do you get the sense?
Yes, sir.
Yes, that's what happens. So during the occluded stage, the warm sector will continue narrowing off. It will continue to narrow, okay, as the cold air continues to lift up the warm air. Okay, so if you can see in this diagram, just going to draw a small diagram of my own illustration. So the cold front has now moved and moved and moved, and it will start mixing with this warm front. Okay, it will start mixing with the warm front in this way. So when they are meeting, you can see that here the warm front and the cold front, they are now mixing with one another. At this point, you can see that they are kind of coming from one line. It is no longer the same as before, because before we had a definite cold front ending at this point. We had a cold front ending at this point. This was the cold front. And we had a warm front. This was the warm front. They were not really mixing with each other. But look at this one, the way I drew it. It is now kind of like they've formed one front. They've like combined into one thing. Okay. So now this is what's happening during the occluded stage. Our warm sector is now narrower. So this is still the warm sector, but the warm sector is now smaller, or it is now narrower. So the warm sector is now narrower because this cold air is heavy. It keeps on pushing and pushing and pushing, causing all the warm air here to end up rising and rising and rising. Yes, Yangoba?
Say, I want to ask, between the line of that cold air and
yes,
air, it's overlapping.
Okay, when they overlap, you want to know what happens when they overlap here. Okay.
I want to know why it overlaps.
Okay, it's overlapping because the cold front is kind of moving. Okay, let's just go back to the mature stage just for a bit of good illustration. Let's just go back a bit to the mature stage. When we were at the mature stage here, guys, we said that the cold air behind the cold front, it is pushing this cold front to keep on moving and moving and moving. So guys, if you use your imagination, it will end up meeting and overlapping with each other. Okay, remember these are just diagrams, guys. Not what it really looks like this, but it's just diagrams to try describe it. Okay, so just try to use your imagination a bit more here to say that as this cold air keeps on pushing and pushing, this cold front will end up kind of mixing with the warm front. But that is what we're gonna do next time, basically. Okay, so they will kind of mix up. So they will mix up in such a way that you will see this sign for the warm front, and at the same time you will see the sign for the cold front at the same time. But now you will know about this when we come back next time. We'll see what is this called and what is its significance. Yes, Sam?
So in other words, at the end of the day, a warm front is opening a circle.
We're still going there. We're gonna see what happens when we come back for our next session. That's when we'll be doing the types of occlusions. So we'll be doing the types of occlusions. That is why this stage I won't explain too much on it, because we have got two types of occlusions. We will know what happens. Okay. So now is the warm air. Yes, Trevor.
So ufuna ukubuza angithi uthe ama-airs akawadlula ama-front angithi. So ufuna ukubuzisa, ufuna uku-understand i-diagram leso ukuthi, because I'm confused ukuthi yabona the way i-drawing ngakhona I'm confused ukuthi i-air lena normally iqhubeka iya-dry or immediately maqeda ukufika kule front iya-convention maqeda iya phansi or kwenzakalani?
Exactly. So here, this is good to explain if we are using the side view of a mid-latitude cyclone. That's why I'm saying for occlusion stage, we will do details about it in the next session. So for now, don't really put too much mind into the occlusion stage. Just know how to identify it from this diagram. You will see the cold air and the warm air, the cold front and the warm front overlapping or becoming one line. Just try to, for now, just grasp the diagram. But when we come back next time, in last we'll about occlusions, the types of occlusions that we have.
Okay.
Yeah, so an occlusion just means that the warm air has been lifted up into the upper atmosphere. So it's kind of the warm air has been all lifted up from the ground. So it's no longer here. The warm air is no longer here in the ground. It has been lifted to the high atmosphere. So we say that an occlusion has occurred. But there are types of occlusions, which is something we'll do next time, Jalo. All right. So to close our session for today, this is what needs to happen. Something to give thought to. This is an exercise. Figure 6 shows a mid-latitude cyclone. Answer this question 6.2.1, 6.2.2. And then this one we have to do it. Let's just summarize the session by doing this. Okay, because it's a simple thing. Okay, just other important information about the mid-latitude cyclone. So the mid-latitude cyclone, it occurs in the winter season in South Africa. So it affects South Africa during winter. Okay, so you guys need to research why is that. Why does it affect South Africa during winter? Why not summer? So that's the task. So homework number 2. This is homework number 2. Homework number 1, it is the previous activity that I showed you. This one. This is homework number 1. You come back, answered it. And then this is...
Are you gonna...
Don't worry, I will send the document as always. Homework number 2. You will research why the mid-latitude cyclone affects South Africa during winter only. Why doesn't it come during summer? What actually makes it to affect South Africa during winter? Research that as the second homework. And you'll be given 5 marks for that research. Then, now, most of the times when they give you a synoptic weather map, this is known as a synoptic weather map, they will only show the cold front. Do you see a cold front, guys, in this map? Is this clear, or should I zoom it in? Let me zoom it even more. Do you see a cold front?
Yes, sir.
Yes. You see a cold front, right? Do you see South Africa there?
Yes,
I
sir.
born in South Africa.
Yes,
Do you see
sir.
South Africa? Yes, there is a South Africa, there is a cold front. So most of the times when it appears in synoptic weather map, they will not draw the entire cyclone. They can just draw it as a cold front. So whenever you see a cold front, you should know that that is a mid-latitude cyclone. You shouldn't just say it's a cold front that is just floating in the air. When in your mind, the moment you just see that cold front drawing here, this cold front drawing in a synoptic weather map, you should know that it's a what? It's a mid-latitude cyclone. Yes, Yangoba?
Sir, buze ukuthi the diagram le engalayicela kufika 8 it's a developing stage angisho.
I don't worry, we're still gonna talk about what's happening in that diagram. All right. Okay. Oh yeah, let's just talk about it. That's the next point. So our mid-latitude cyclones, they usually form in families. So our mid-latitude cyclone, it doesn't just form as one mid-latitude cyclone. They actually walk in families. Okay, what do I mean? You cannot just find a mid-latitude cyclone like this, just one mid-latitude cyclone. Like this is a mid-latitude cyclone alone. No. So a mid-latitude cyclone, it will be connected to another mid-latitude cyclone. Okay, it will be connected to another mid-latitude cyclone. So they actually walk in families. Okay, so my mid-latitude cyclones, they form in families and they move in families. So you can have many mid-latitude cyclones walking together, connected together. All right. Now, I want you guys, task number 3. You are going to look at this diagram, figure 8. I'll get back to you, Trevor Ndovo. Figure number 8, you have to try to see how many, the questions here, how many mid-latitude cyclones can you see here? Since we say that they move as a family, how many can you see? Right, I want you to use your skills to see how many can you see. And next of them, give me their development stages. Which stage of development are they in? Are they in the mature stage? Are they in the initial stage or what? Each and every cyclone that we have here, each and every mid-latitude cyclone that we have in figure 8, it is in its own stage. So you guys have to figure out which one is in which stage. All right, so how many mid-latitude cyclones are we having in figure 8? At what stages are they in? And then that is all that I want for figure 8. So that is task number 3 or homework number 3. Then the last homework. Relax. Trevor, what was your question?
Bengibuzisa ukuthi even if ama-mid-latitude cyclone anama-families, still akhera kwi-polar front kwi-60 degrees latitude, angithi?
Yes, wonke aku-polar front. That is why ahlangene. That's why they are connected. They are all at the polar front.
Okay, sure.
Yeah. So task number 3, you look at figure 8 and tell how many mid-latitude cyclones can you see and identify the stage of development on each of them. And then after that, you do what? You're going to do this as the last activity, which will be activity number 5, if I'm not mistaken. So this is from Free State, September 2025. You read the infographic, you study it, and then you answer question 1, question 2, and question 3, all of them. Then the last task, task number 6, kind of the last activity that you guys must come back with. This will be task number 6. You have to research the different diagrams that we use to represent a mid-latitude cyclone. You must be able to draw each and every one and describe each and every one. And here is a hint for you. The one that you are having there, it is known as the top view of a mid-latitude cyclone. So go and research the other different diagrams to represent a mid-latitude cyclone. So you've got 6 homeworks in total, but there is, don't worry, and you'll be able to manage. Yes, Sam.
So somothi ngenze research ukuthi ngifunde noma ngigoogle because
uyofunda
research.
phela okuyogugula nokuyocopy information is not really learning. I would want you to be able to demonstrate that you understand what you're talking about. So you have to write it. Make sure that you write whatever that you do, you post it on the group. But if you post it on the group, everyone is gonna copy. Every one of you must post this homework in my inbox rather than the group. So these 6 homeworks in the inbox. You can do all your research using different sources and Google and whatnot, but what's most important is for you to be able to describe it, because I will ask you questions based on what you have written individually. Yes, Yango.
Say due date.
Due date is our next session on Sunday. It's a lot of homeworks. That's why I will extend the time, because you still have got life sciences that I need tomorrow, and physics as well. So, and maths as well. So let's do it Sunday. Okay, so I will summarize the homeworks that we have. Homework number 1, you do this activity. Figure 6 shown what. I wrote it number 1. Homework number 2, you're gonna do this. You're gonna research why the mid-latitude cyclone affects South Africa in winter, right? Activity number 3, you're gonna research here, looking at figure 8. You're gonna identify how many mid-latitude cyclones we have, because I've told you that they are connected to each other. They walk in families, they move in families, and you need to identify the stage of each and every one of them. And then activity number 4, it's actually this one, but I wrote 5, it's fine, is these 3 questions. And then lastly, it is to research. This one, take your time more on this one, the one written, the task. Research it and make sure you understand it. You draw the diagrams, you know how to describe them, because the first 1 hour of the next session, it is just asking about what you have researched, because it builds a basic of what we are doing. Are we all together? So as we close, who can close with a prayer so that we can sleep knowing how much homework we have? And yeah.
Heavenly Father, thank you for the classes. Help us that to process and store this information.